Week 3 of the NFL season is already here. Some teams are feeling the glory and some other teams know everything is going downhill. With that being said, I'm predicting every single Week 3 game, and I'll be dropping $100 at the end of the video for a chance to win $2,000 with my 5-player pick'em. Stay tuned. For the first game of the week, Thursday Night Football, we have the Patriots traveling on the road to face the New York Jets, and I think this is one of the more underrated games this week. The Patriots have been a huge surprise, upsetting the Bengals in Week 1 and having a narrow overtime loss to the Seattle Seahawks in Week 2. They've been competitive by being one-dimensional running the football. They actually have the third highest rushing attempts in the entire NFL. And despite having absolutely no passing game with Jacoby Brissett, I think this team has a shot, a small shot against the Jets. Look, I understand that the Jets had a tough task in Week 1 going up against the San Francisco 49ers, the former NFC champs. Things are looking a little bit better as Aaron Rodgers got his first victory as a Jet in Week 2 against the Tennessee Titans. However, the Jets offense started out slow and they were able to get 17 points off of Titans' mistakes, a blocked punt and 2 turnovers. So I personally think the passing game of the Jets needs a lot more time to gel. I am surprised that the Jets are favored by 6.5 points. I think the Patriots are going to be a trap game for a lot of teams this year. But it's Aaron Rodgers' first home game of the year after being injured all last year. I think they're going to be unstoppable in this matchup. So I'm picking the Jets to win 23-16 in prime time. Each game, I'm going to be picking my yard dogs, 2 of my favorite higher or lower stat totals, 1 from each team. I'm going to take the lower on Jacoby Brissett in passing yards. This guy has not been able to air it out at all, and I don't think it's going to start against the New York Jets. I'm going to take the higher with the New York Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson, definitely going to get some targets from Aaron Rodgers. The New York Giants travel on the road to face the Cleveland Browns. The Giants got absolutely smoked like a pre-rolled joint against the Minnesota Vikings in Week 1. But in Week 2, it seemed like they could possibly turn a corner against the Washington Commanders. But unfortunately, this game ended in Brian Daboll, the head coach, slamming the headset on the ground. And the Giants lost in the most hilarious fashion. They scored 3 touchdowns, but only ended up with 18 points. They had injuries to the kicker, so they had their punter try to do the point after kick for a field goal. He missed, and then they went for two, and failed every single time. And the cherry on top is that the Commanders beat the Giants last week with only field goals, not 1 touchdown. We thought the Browns were going to ride downhill after they got blown out by the Cowboys in Week 1, and you got the Deshaun Watson new allegations in the background. But it seems like that Cleveland Browns defense is going to keep them in every game, and they were able to get the victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars this past week. However, Cleveland is still struggling to score points. Even though the Browns are the favorite in this game, I trust the Giants offense more than the Browns offense, and I am shockingly going with the New York Giants against the Cleveland Browns 21-17. For my yard dogs, I gotta take the higher on Malik Neighbors getting higher than 65.5 receiving yards right here, right now. I think the safest pick for the Browns is Jerome Ford, higher than 64.5 rushing yards for this game. The Green Bay Packers travel to face the Tennessee Titans. The Titans head coach Brian Callahan seems absolutely fed up with the young quarterback Will Levis. He's cursing at the guy on the sidelines in front of everybody, and honestly, Will Levis just keeps turning the ball over week after week. And it just feels like something's going to snap, and we're probably going to see the backup quarterback Mason Rudolph come in soon, especially since the Titans defense has been pretty good. Look, I admit, I thought the Packers were done since Jordan Love is injured, but they were able to adjust with backup quarterback Malik Willis, and they picked up the slugfest dub against the Indianapolis Colts last week. This game was so tough that people even threw up on the football field. The Packers won this game by utilizing Josh Jacobs in the run game. The guy had 32 carries, and also Malik Willis, he was utilized in the run game. He picked up 41 yards on the ground. If Jordan Love finds a way to play, then I think the Packers win this game hands down. But I don't think he'll play, and the Packers will struggle to run the ball like they did last week against this tough Titans defense. And I think Will Levis is going to do anything in his power to not have multiple turnovers again in week 3. So I'm picking a Titans upset at home 17-13. For my yard dogs, I'm taking the higher on Will Levis, getting higher than 199 passing yards. He might just have some turnovers though. And I'm going to take the higher on Josh Jacobs. They are going to run the ball. They are not going to trust Malik Willis in this game. Hey, I wanted to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Underdog, where you could win money on sports. I love their pick'em game where you just pick your favorite players, guess the higher and lower stat total in a given game, and you have the chance to win up to 1,000 times your money in one night. I really like doing this for a game that I'm not emotionally invested in, because as soon as I make some underdog picks, I suddenly care so much. As we enter a big week 3 of the NFL season, Underdog has so many different promos every single day of the week, including this dope CeeDee Lamb pick. Check out this map to see if Underdog is available in your state. Shout out to all my Californian viewers where it is available. During all of my live streams, you can watch me, Willie, sweat out my picks. Use my promo code WiFi when you sign up for first-time deposit offers of up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. Simply go to UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up, use promo code WiFi, or download the app in the Google or Apple Play Store. Use promo code Wi-Fi for $1,000 in bonus cash plus that free beautiful pick. So what the hell are you waiting for? Check out Underdog, use code Wi-Fi. The link is in the description and pinned comment below. The Chicago Bears travel on the road to face the Indianapolis Colts. Last week, Caleb Williams and the Bears offense struggled so much against the Texans defense that their offensive coordinator was literally shaking while calling plays. Don't get me wrong, the rookie quarterback's offensive line did him no favors and he had no time to throw the football. But even when Caleb Williams did have time in critical moments, he made some boneheaded throws, maybe some of the worst throws of the entire season. It's gotten so bad that we see the number 1 wide receiver of the Bears, DJ Moore, absolutely heated on the sideline during these games. For all the hype and boasting that Caleb Williams did during the offseason, he is totally shitting the bed right now. On the flip side, the Colts offense started off hot week 1 against the Houston Texans, but they failed miserably against the Green Bay Packers. Quarterback Anthony Richardson not only had an awful completion percentage, but he threw 3 interceptions, and some of these were during the deep balls that he's known for. It seems like Anthony Richardson may have gotten lucky week 1 against the Texans. The Bears defense is going to be even tougher than the Packers defense this week for Anthony Richardson. This game is going to be about which young quarterback sucks the least and which defense can capitalize off of their mistakes. Because of home field advantage, I'm giving a narrow win to the Indianapolis Colts. I got them winning 20-13 over the Bears. For my yard dogs, I think the Bears are going to try to make DJ Moore happy. I'm taking the higher on that 61.5 receiving yards. And I cannot see Anthony Richardson winning this game in the air. I'm taking the lower on his 181 passing yards. The Houston Texans travel to face the Minnesota Vikings. Last week, the Vikings had a crazy upset against the San Francisco 49ers. Sam Darnold might be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. His head coach got emotional when talking about his success.
On your quarterback journey, when everybody decides that you cannot play, we always believed in him.
The Vikings have a defense full of monsters too. They had 6 sacks alone against the 49ers. Now the Texans offense started out hot in week 1, but their defense gave up big plays against the Colts. It was the exact opposite in week 2. The Texans offense started to regress while their defense was the one holding down the fort making plays. In my opinion, this is going to be one of the more exciting games this week. You also have Texans pass rusher Danielle Hunter going up against his old team in the Vikings. But honestly, I've always felt like the Texans are going to regress from that amazing CJ Stroud rookie season. And after last week, I'm a believer in the Vikings. I think they get the dub 27-23. For my yard dogs, I'm definitely taking the higher on Sam Darnold, 218.5 passing yards. That's easy. And I'm going with Nico Collins on the Houston Texans, going higher than 70.5 receiving yards. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles travel to New Orleans to face the Saints. This is my absolute favorite game of the week. Derek Carr and the Saints not only might be the best offense in the NFL, but the best team in the entire NFL. The NFL world is catching up to this. We have Fox Power Rankings calling the Saints the second best team in the NFL, right behind the Chiefs. The Saints served up such a big ass whooping against the Dallas Cowboys that they had Cowboys fans having emotional breakdowns during the game. As a big-time Derek Carr fan, it feels so good watching him prove all the haters wrong. I've seen this guy's entire career, and I feel like his prime is right now. Also, the 29-year-old running back Alvin Kamara looks like he's 23. He had 4 freaking touchdowns in this game. With the Philadelphia Eagles struggling against the run this year, especially this past game against the Atlanta Falcons, I think they are losing sleep at night thinking about how to stop Kamara. Keep in mind the Saints were without arguably their best defensive player, Marshawn Lattimore. Imagine how nasty this Saints defense is going to be once he comes back. The Eagles' best wide receiver, A.J. Brown, is expected to miss this game against the Saints. And while the Eagles' offense has shown big playmaking ability at times, especially with Jalen Hurts, they have still choked in critical moments of the game. Hurts has literally had turnovers in every single game this year. Look, man, I think we have to throw all the previous seasons out of the window. It's a new year and the Saints are marching in. I'm predicting another ass whooping this time at the Dome. I got the Saints winning this game 41-24. For my yard dogs, I'm taking the higher on Alvin Kamara running the football with higher than 67.5 rushing yards. I also find a tush-push touchdown likely, so I'm taking the higher on Jalen Hurts getting at least a rushing TD. The LA Chargers travel on the road to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Chargers are on a 2-game win streak, but the most recent one was against the Carolina Panthers. Meanwhile, the Steelers find a way to win low-scoring games with Justin Fields. Last week, it was against the struggling Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are undefeated. I think the Chargers have proven themselves more because they at least beat the Raiders, who have tons of great players and I think are a sleeper team this year. And it looks like the Steelers are deciding to roll with Justin Fields again at quarterback for week 3. This is getting kind of weird. Russell Wilson not starting because of a calf injury from July, and he's still dressing out as an emergency backup. Something is fishy here. Look, I do believe the Steelers have the edge on defense. I also believe both of the offenses of each of these teams have been one-dimensional, running the football mainly. However, at the end of the day, this is a game between Justins, and I trust Justin Herbert more than the other Justin Fields. So I have the Chargers winning a close game, 20-17. For my yard dogs, I'm still taking the lower on Justin Herbert with those passing yards at 204 passing yards. When it comes to the Steelers, I'm going with Najee Harris with higher than 53.5 rushing yards. Whoa, the Denver Broncos travel to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Broncos quarterback Bo Nix struggled for a second week in the row, this time against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now the young man is starting to sound depressed.
Bo, can you take us through the interception in the end zone?
Drop back, threw it to the other team.
It's not all his fault. The Broncos have been absolutely unable to run the football, and now they have a nightmare matchup against the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. The Bucs defense was able to clamp down and force turnovers against a tough Lions team last week. And Baker Mayfield is playing with his hair on fire every single week. This guy was willing to use his legs to get the job done. This past week, you could say the Bucs took a step back statistically, but at the same time, they were going up against a Super Bowl contender with the Detroit Lions. I really cannot see any way that the Denver Broncos win this game. I have the Buccaneers winning it right here, 27-17, a big win. For my yard dogs, I really don't like anything here besides a higher with Baker Mayfield on 249.5 passing yards. Bo Nix actually has gotten decent yards. He just commits turnovers, so I wouldn't choose anything for the Broncos here. The Carolina Panthers travel to Vegas, baby, to face the Raiders. The Raiders absolutely shocked the world by defeating the Baltimore Ravens on the road. People keep talking about the Ravens' miscues, but you gotta admit the Raiders earned this game in the second half. It seems like a switch flipped for Gardner Minshew, and he was able to get some production in the air and get the ball to his dominant playmakers like Devontae Adams, like the rookie Brock Bowers. Did you know that Minshew Mania is second in passing yards with a top completion percentage? Who would have thought? The Raiders defense has lived up to all the hype this year. They've just been waiting for their offense to catch up, and if they can develop some type of running game, I think this could be a very dangerous team. The Panthers continue to be an organizational disaster, and they have benched Bryce Young, the man they traded the farm for, only after 18 games in his career. Now they are going with the red-headed veteran quarterback Andy Dalton. And Dalton looks absolutely stoked to be the starting quarterback this week. This move even shocked Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce.
The challenge of facing Andy Dalton.
I don't know what happened there.
He's going to start a quarterback.
Veteran quarterback. I mean, that's news to me. I just was in meetings, but I got to go back up to the drawing boards on that one. Wasn't prepared for that one.
Andy Dalton is undefeated against the Raiders, so they need to watch out. He's going to make the Panthers better, but this organization is so toxic. I think there's nothing they can do to turn this year around. They have destroyed head coach Canales' positive attitude. So I have the Raiders winning this game 24-14. For my yard dogs, I got to take the higher on Devontae Adams getting higher than 66.5 receiving yards. That connection has come alive. And while I don't think the Panthers will have success, I can envision an Adam Thielen red zone touchdown in this game. I'm taking the higher on that. The Miami Dolphins travel to face the Seattle Seahawks. The Dolphins suffered an absolute tragedy last week as Tua Tagovailoa had his fourth concussion, and now he has since been placed on injured reserve. There's not a chance for him to come back until after week 8 of the regular season. And now they're going to be relying on the backup quarterback Shaq Thompson. The Seattle Seahawks right now are undefeated, and it seems like nobody has noticed. But that's mainly because they've done it against underdogs like the Patriots, like the Denver Broncos. And really, this game was supposed to be interesting because the Dolphins were going to present a real true test for Seattle, but that's no longer the case since they are without their franchise QB. The Seahawks definitely need to get their run game back. It was alive in week 1, but died in week 2. Kenneth Walker was out, and we don't know if he's coming back in week 3. Speaking of running game, I don't think that the Dolphins running back Devin Achane is going to be that productive without Tua. Sorry, fantasy football owners. Look, this is a big opportunity for Seattle at home, and I think they're going to take it, man. I got them getting the win 21-17. Wow, there's like nothing available here, but I do like the higher on DK Metcalf going above 60.5 receiving yards. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Jerry World to face the Dallas Cowboys. Both of these teams have depressed fan bases coming off of embarrassing losses. To me, it seems like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens fail to win it when they don't utilize Lamar's legs in their football games. They thought they could win it with Lamar airing it out against the Raiders last week, and that was a huge mistake. However, the Ravens defense was stout against the run game last week against the Raiders, but they gave up big plays in the air. We all thought that the Cowboys defense was absolutely dominant after they clamped down on the Browns in week 1, but maybe that was a fluke. Everything changed after the Cowboys defense got their ass whooped against the Saints. But to be fair, it seems like the Saints offense might just be that dominant and that tough to defend, not so much a knock on the Dallas Cowboys. Offensively, Dak Prescott choked against the Saints. He had 2 interceptions and looked uncomfortable the entire game. And after that loss at home last week, there are going to be some Cowboys fans there with little patience. But you know, when it comes to the Ravens, I think that we're going to find out of nowhere late in the season that John Harbaugh, the guy who's tied for being the oldest coach in the NFL, is quietly on the hot seat. You know, he also had some boneheaded challenges last week against the Raiders, and that led to him losing timeouts, preventing a Ravens comeback. So I have the Ravens going 0-3, man. I think the Cowboys are going to bounce back and win this game 27-24. For my yard dogs, the Ravens better run it with Lamar. I'm taking the higher on 48.5. They need to do that to win this game. And it seems like CeeDee Lamb is the Cowboys' only weapon on offense. I think he's going to be double, triple covered. I'm taking the lower on 86.5 receiving yards for CeeDee Lamb. They got to find somebody else to win it. The 49ers travel to Los Angeles to face the Rams. Wow, both of these teams are completely decimated with injuries. You got the San Francisco 49ers already without star running back Christian McCaffrey for a significant amount of time. And now Deebo Samuel is injured and he's expected to miss a couple weeks. It looks like the 49ers are going to find out soon if Brandon Ayuk was worth $30 million a year. And the Rams, wow, they were already without Puka Nacua, and now they're losing star wide receiver Cooper Kupp. He is going to be placed on IR soon, and the Rams offense already had a banged up offensive line. Now they don't have any playmakers. On the flip side, the 49ers defense is still a top unit in the entire NFL, despite the fact that they gave up a few big plays against the Vikings last week. The Rams defense got absolutely manhandled against the Arizona Cardinals last week, but to be fair to the Rams defense, their offense really never gave them a break, and they played behind the entire game. If it wasn't for the upset victory with the Vikings against the Niners last week, this would be an easy game to call, and I still believe the Niners are going to bounce back in LA big time. I have them winning this game 28-17. They don't have the Niners and Rams game posted because I am recording this pretty early and the injury chart is still getting out, but if I had to choose anybody, even though they're not listed yet, I would choose Demarcus Robinson, the higher on his receiving yards for the Rams. He's going to be heavily targeted. The Detroit Lions travel to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Last week, the Lions lost a close matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit accidentally had their offense and special teams on the field at the same time. This caused a penalty and prevented a field goal right before halftime, and that really would have mattered in this close game.
Their coach cost them. Their head coach cost them this one. So
head coach Dan Campbell got emotional as usual, and he took the blame for the loss. And I'm just wondering if the heartstrings passionate Dan Campbell shtick is starting to wear off and get old for the Lions, especially given the fact that his Hard Knocks moment was like 2 years ago. The Cardinals offense has been absolutely fire over the past 2 weeks. Kyler Murray is looking magical at quarterback, and now he's starting to connect with the rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. Murray had a perfect passer rating against the LA Rams, and I don't think this is a fluke. I don't think this is a one-time thing. However, Arizona's defense is going to have a much tougher task against the Lions compared to playing against the injury-riddled Rams last week. But if Kyler Murray can keep juking out pass rushers, and if he could juke out somebody like Aiden Hutchinson, then I think this game is going to be an absolute shootout. The Cardinals are my sleeper team to win the NFC West, especially now that these Niners injuries are stacking up. So I'm picking the Cardinals to beat the Detroit Lions at home 31-28. I straight up don't care that Kyler Murray did not have that many yards against the Bills. I'm still taking the higher on him, getting higher than 234 passing yards this time against the Detroit Lions. And for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown got banged up. We don't know his status for this game. I'm taking the higher on Jahmyr Gibbs rushing yards with 59.5 rushing yards. It's Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs travel to A-Town to face the Falcons. The Falcons had a nice last-second win against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Will they get that lucky against the Chiefs, though? To be honest, the Chiefs had some luck of their own. They were able to beat the Bengals on 4th down. The Bengals committed a boneheaded pass interference, and that led to the Chiefs setting up the game-winning field goal. But the Chiefs lost a key contributor in running back Isaiah Pacheco. And I love reunions in the NFL, and they have signed the former Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt. He's on the practice squad and could be elevated on game day. To be honest, I think the Falcons got lucky against the Eagles. The Eagles just made some poor decisions managing that game at the end. But I will give credit to the Falcons defense. They were able to put pressure on Jalen Hurts throughout the entire game. And I also liked how the Falcons offense was able to run the football. Kirk Cousins was stationary in week 1. He looks like he's gotten a little bit healthier and he was able to move a little bit in week 2 and even did some play action. And look, when it mattered the most, Kirk Cousins made some big time throws at the end to set up that game-winning drive. But the defending Super Bowl champs have a better defense than the Eagles right now. And I don't think Patrick Patrick Mahomes is going to throw 2 interceptions again like he did last week. So I have the Chiefs winning this game on the road in Atlanta 27-20. For my yard dogs, I'm taking the lower on Patrick Mahomes passing yards at 268.5 passing yards. And we saw Drake London start to get going. I think this guy's going to get a touchdown for sure in this game. Can you believe we made it down to our 2 final games on Monday Night Football? They're having 2 games kind of overlapping. Why do we need 2 games on Monday Night Football? Why can't we just keep crap normal? So we have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling on the road to face the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have a nice 2-game win streak, and they most recently got the W against the Miami Dolphins. Now, you cannot say that they got the W because of the Tua injury. The Bills were dominating that game before Tua was ruled out of that matchup. The Jaguars also faced Miami in week 1, and they had the lead, but they continued to make mistakes and allowed them to come back. Just this past week, the Jaguars offense was pretty much unable to find production against that tough Cleveland Browns defense. But it does seem like Jacksonville's defense is going to be resilient this year and keep them in games. However, at the end of the day, I think the Buffalo Bills are much better than the Jags' previous opponents, the Browns and the Dolphins, even with Tua on the Dolphins. Also, I really like the Bills' defensive line. I think they make up for some of the losses they had in the secondary. So I have the Bills winning this game at home 24-19. For my yard dogs, I love James Cook going higher than 64.5 rushing yards. He's had 70 in every single game. Trevor Lawrence, I like the lower on that passing yards. He's only had 220 at his highest so far this season. The final game of the week, the Washington Commanders travel on the road to face the Cincinnati Bengals. Last week, the Commanders won that hilarious game against the New York Giants, where they kicked 18 points worth of field goals. Jaden Daniels so far is the best rookie quarterback, and it's mainly because he has made no mistakes. He has 0 interceptions on the year, but at the same time, he has 0 passing touchdowns. The Commanders cannot connect through the air, and they also have a defense that is just not impressive. Bengals QB Joe Burrow was just so frustrated watching that game against the Chiefs in the final second when a PI call ended up sealing the victory for Kansas City. The guy seemed really bummed out. The guy seemed kind of depressed after the game. I almost wonder if this Jamar Chase contract stall has kind of created a toxic locker room environment for the Bengals. But ultimately, the Bengals showed that they could play defense against the Chiefs and force some turnovers. And honestly, I think they would have won this game if it wasn't for that PI call at the very end, which they did commit, and if it wasn't for the Joe Burrow fumble that ended up being a Kansas City Chiefs touchdown. I think the Commanders are going in the right direction, and I want to see them build this defense next year, and I think they're going to be competitive next year. In my opinion, despite the upset loss against the Patriots in week 1, I think the Bengals are in a totally different league than the Commanders. So I have the Bengals winning this game at home 28-17. And now I'm dropping $100 on my 5-player pick'em on Underdog at a chance to win $2,000. Remember to make some picks on Underdog yourself. Sign up with my promo code WiFi. The link is in the pinned comment and description. These are my 5 favorites this week. The higher on Sam Darnold on 218 passing yards. Also the higher on Devontae Adams on 66.5 receiving yards. Higher on Josh Jacobs with 71.5 rushing yards. And the higher on Marvin Harrison Jr. 67.5 receiving yards. And the higher on Alvin Kamara, 67.5 rushing yards. These are the 5 guys that I think will for sure get some good production this week. I'm live on Thursday Night Football and on Sundays for every Raiders and Saints game. We're going to keep these prediction videos going every single week. Make sure to subscribe to me, Wi-Fi Willie, for more NFL content. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.